We start off with the main story of the day. More embarrassing prison releases that shouldn't have happened. A manhunt is underway for a second foreign criminal. I can show you this in the mirror here. Prisons in chaos, not again. There we are. 24-year-old Albanian Brahim Kaddour-Cherif is a convicted sex offender serving time for trespass with intent to steal. He's not an asylum seeker as initially believed. He came here legally, but then was flagged in 2020 for overstaying a visitor's visa and apparently was in the initial stages of deportation. He was released from Wandsworth prison on Wednesday last week, just 5 days after the migrant sex offender Hadush Kebatu, who's now been deported, was accidentally set free from Chelmsford. Police were only alerted on Tuesday to this latest thing, and news broke during Prime Minister's questions after the Justice Secretary David Lammy, who's there filling in for the Prime Minister, was grilled on accidental prison releases. And we'll come to that exchange in a moment, but he was asked 5 times. Afterwards, Lammy said he was outraged and appalled by the mistake, but he blamed the Conservatives for leaving a failing justice system. So this is our debate today. 0207 862 2222 is the number. We'll start with our new guest. What do you think of what's happened and whether it's Labour's fault?
I mean, obviously it's completely unacceptable. And I think that David Lammy does have a point by pointing to the Conservatives, because under austerity, staff numbers at prisons were absolutely slashed. At HMP Chelmsford, where Hadush Kebatu was released from, 25% of their prison staff was cut in 2016. But it actually goes back further than that, to the Tony Blair era PFIs, which essentially privatised British, or a lot of British prisons. And the Prison Reform Trust found that led to low levels of staffing and inexperienced staff in the interest of profit.
James?
I think you're clutching at straws when it comes to looking at the blame game as to who's responsible, because I think whoever is in power has to be responsible for the decisions that are taken now and today. David Lammy either knew of information and obfuscated when answering the question, or he didn't know and he should have known. So I don't care which way it is. And that's why I think the finger of blame should be pointed, because it is clear that our politicians are not in touch with the problems. They were elected on a manifesto that said, we know where the problems are, we're going to fix them. How long do you do the blame game before you start fixing? And then combined, we're dealing with somebody. I mean, did you notice that in that clip you showed, he wasn't wearing a poppy? Later on, he was. So we're dealing with somebody who is perhaps a little bit chaotic in his own private life and is unable to organise himself.
David Lammy was given a poppy by somebody sitting behind him.
Yes.
I think, yeah. But does that matter?
I think it matters in terms of the preparation that you're doing for the event. So, OK, it's a small point, and does it matter? Maybe not. But what we're dealing with...
But he's standing in for the Prime Minister, so maybe it does matter, actually.
Well, the thing is that, first of all, he's standing in for the Prime Minister, and it's a big moment. And the second thing is that when you are asked a question, I want to see a Justice Secretary who owns the problem, identifies it, and if he knew, he should have just simply answered and said, we've still got problems here.
Yeah, we'll see the exchanges shortly, which are very telling. There's a bit more news yesterday, more bad news. Another prisoner was released in error from Wandsworth on Monday. This is 35-year-old William Smith, who goes by the name of Billy. He'd been sentenced to 45 months for multiple fraud offences that same day. So I'm trying to get my head around this. You're basically told you're going to prison and then you don't go.
I mean, it's shocking. HMP Wandsworth as well is where Daniel Khalif
the famous escape.
Escaped under the Conservative government. And that prison actually was put into special measures in 2024. I think the crisis in our prisons is so unbelievably deep that within 1 year of a Labour government, they're trying to undo 14 years of austerity. And I think it goes back, like I said, even further than that.
You're blaming austerity, though, sorry to interrupt, but you're blaming austerity for something which I think we can point the finger at all governments, which is around 0.2% of the population will at any point be behind bars. If your population has increased, which it has by 10 million, both legal and illegal migration have caused that, and you are not increasing the infrastructure, then you are to blame. So it's not about austerity, it's about previous governments, Blair, Brown, Cameron, all of them who oversaw significant increases.
You can
in our
argue back here, Laura. Don't let him railroad you.
Like I said, I also lay the blame at the feet of Tony Blair and PFIs. So it's not just the austerity government, but if you've been handed the prison.
Why has PFI got to do with it? It's just a way of providing extra services. And
well, often it costs a lot more per prisoner than in state-run prisons. So you're not actually getting very good value for money for the taxpayer.
It depends whether they're running it efficiently.
Well, also the Prison Reform Trust found that privatised prisons have lower levels of staffing, high turnover and inexperienced staff, which, I mean, I know these prisons aren't completely privately run, but it basically means that I wasn't shocked when I heard this. It actually seemed like an inevitability of the prison crisis.
I'm going to show you the cartoon in today's Telegraph, because this guy, Matt, is a genius, as we know, but this is particularly, it's almost not funny. The judge is saying to the convict, I'm sending you to prison. Neither of us has any idea how long you'll be there. And you know what? It's not even, that's the reality now, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because this guy, Billy, is sent to prison and is released on the same day. Mm. I don't even know how you get in and out of the building fast.
I think if you want to point the blame game, and look, there is plenty to blame previous governments. I'm not trying to get away from that. And there's plenty also to be picked up on PFI contracts. I would just say that if you have a contract, if it hasn't been worded properly and you're not holding people to account, that's where the problems lie. In the issue here, we have just basic incompetence. That doesn't cost anything.
And you think the ministry, but the key thing for our debate is you think that's Labour's fault because they're in charge?
No, I'm not blaming Labour entirely. I think they are part of the problem. Because if you are not prepared to be honest with the public when you know something, you should be answering it and taking ownership of the problem.
You cannot get elected promising more money for prisons. That's just a rule of life. Because pensioners say, well, we want the money because we haven't broken the law. And money for prisons equals sky dishes. Frankly, that's what people think it is, and carpets.
I don't think that's right.
No, maybe not, but people think it goes towards carpets.
Look, go back to the 80s and look at this strong law enforcement and actually look at Blair. Causes of crime and all the things that we had. People do care about crime. They do care about feeling safe on the streets. Prisons and policing is part of that, and people will pay for it.
Let's see.
But they're not going to pay, and they're not going to be willing to pay more if they see incompetence.
Let's see. Steve in Birmingham, do you think it's Labour's fault?
Yes, I do, actually, because you can't keep putting the blame on the Conservative. I don't vote Conservative, I don't vote Labour, but you can't keep putting the blame on the Conservative for everything that goes wrong. Yes, they've done a lot of mistakes, I agree, but also Labour's had 16 months now. Why aren't they starting to get things sorted? That's what I'd like to know.
Yeah, they've had quite a long time, more than a year now.
Mm-hmm. I do think that, well, whoever advised David Lammy at Prime Minister's questions to answer in the way he did, I'm not sure what they were thinking, because if he did know, as it's come out, that he was briefed on the prison release, I'm really not sure why he didn't.
Well, apparently there's a little squeak of daylight for him, which is that he can say that the person who was released by accident wasn't an asylum seeker, and he was being asked about asylum seekers. That doesn't explain the poppy and so on. Also, I think, in general, people are sick of, you're asked a question about something and you reply by just insulting the person who's asked the question. It's just like we're through. That's boring now.
We're done with that.
We are sort of done with that. We've got more serious fish to fry.
I think people would give more credit if there was more honesty with the answer. And I think that's why, Steve, I think you're right. At what stage do you stop blaming the previous lot? We know it was a mess, but at what stage are you actually going to take responsibility for yourself?
OK, Jean in Dorset, hi.
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, panel.
Is this one on Labour's doorstep?
Oh, for heaven's sake. They had 14 years in which to come up with a plan, not only for the prison crisis. I don't think it's a crisis at all. I think it's a scandal. What on earth have they been doing for 14 years?
Well, I suppose their defence is they were thinking about it. And the Conservatives were, in their eyes, were just wrecking the whole thing. But you think it's down to them?
I've said it before on your show. Yet another example of all sizzle and no sausage. For heaven's sake, they should stack them to the rafters in the cells.
Stack them? Well, let me ask, Laura, what about that? In the end, all you've got needed at a jail is a solid door. You don't need very much more than that.
Well, I think reports into these prisons, the two that have been involved in these headlines, HMP Chelmsford and HMP Wandsworth, reports into those prisons show abysmal conditions for prisoners. I mean, like lack of hygiene.
But Jean doesn't mind. I mean, the point Jean's making is that if you committed a crime, you deserve abysmal conditions?
Well, I think it's, what do you think the point of a prison is? And
Well, Jean, you asked, Laura.
I mean, is it to
Well,
rehabilitate?
it's not to be rewarded in any way for what you've done. It should be first and foremost punitive, and until it is, nothing is going to change. And if I can just quickly say,
Let Laura reply to that, Jean, for a second.
I mean, I think if in this country the point of prison should be to stop repeat offending, as well as obviously punishing people for their crimes. But if you want to stop repeat offending, then I don't think treating people like, frankly, they're animals is going to help break that
Jean.
cycle of crime.
then I would suggest that those are put into prison start behaving like decent human beings. How about that?
I mean, I do agree that people should be in prison, especially if they've committed crimes and it is a punishment. But I think at HMP Wandsworth and HMP Chelmsford, we're seeing really high suicide rates among prisoners as well. And I think people should be able to be rehabilitated, and that should be one of the points of prison alongside punishment.
OK, Jean, thank you. Kathy in Surrey, hi.
Hi, morning.
This ridiculous situation where we're now with a whole sequence of people seem to be getting out of prison without serving their sentence, or what do you think? Is it Labour's fault?
First of all, I do agree at the moment it's Labour's fault. They have to stop blaming everyone else for them. They've been over 15 months in power and everything is getting worse, not better. It should be getting better after 15 months. And with regard to the prison, I think if we deported foreign criminals for a start, we've got enough of our own, deport them as soon as they commit an offence. We should also reduce putting people into prison for texts and tweets. That would bring the numbers down. I just feel this government just sit back and blame the previous. Yeah, the previous government were rubbish. I agree with that as well. But they came in with whatever it was, black hole. The black hole is now bigger. The people getting released from prisons are now bigger. So apart from I can't see any chink of light with this government at all.
What if they raise taxes? Can they sort it out? Can they sort it out by raising taxes?
I don't think that's not the answer to everything. I don't agree with that. And
okay.
Taxes, yeah, for maybe the very rich, but I'm a pensioner and I can't say that.
Thanks. Sorry, your line went, but thank you, Kathy, very much. Doesn't sound like a pensioner. Sounds like she's 35. Got a good young voice there.
But also, she's got a good point, which is, you're not going to solve these problems by taxing, because some of it is just pure incompetence, and incompetence isn't about necessarily money. It's about direction. It's about management. It's about resource. It's about being honest.
Yeah. OK, after the break, more of this, more calls on whether it is Labour to blame. They're saying it's not us. It's the whole legacy of Tory underspending. 020 7862 2222 is the number you need. Before the break, we asked who was the youngest member of the Beatles. Is it George Harrison, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, or Ringo? It's actually George. Welcome back. We're live on 5 with Laura and James. Later, we're asking if the NHS should refuse to treat racist patients. But now more calls on whether Labour are to blame for mistaken prisoner releases. 0207 862 2222. We spent quite a bit of time, haven't we, referring to what happened in the House of Commons yesterday. I'm going to show it to you in more detail. It involves a question about this guy Kebatu, who was the first one to be released in error when he should have been deported. So let's just go over here. And the key question is, did Lammy duck? Did he duck the questions? The Conservatives call him, of course, Calamity Lammy. So let's go through to the Commons. And here is David Lammy. I paused it here, sitting in for the Prime Minister. And so he's on that bench. And opposite him, sitting in for Kemi Badenoch, for the Conservatives, is a guy called James Cartlidge. And he's about to have basically the best political day of his life.
Can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison?
It's quite a straightforward question, and you'll see two stages to the answer. Firstly, an apology for what happened, and then a reminder of Conservative mistakes.
Said that, of course, I apologise, and I'm sorry for the anxiety caused. But look, let me just remind him that he was a justice minister that allowed our prisons to get to this state in the first place.
So we pause it there, and the Conservative says, no, I'm asking you about, have there been other cases? He's going to go again.
Serious crimes that we are... I'm going to ask him the question again. Can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a very specific question for him to answer.
So that's two now.
Deputy Prime Minister.
Let's see.
After his release, I put in place the toughest checks we've ever had in the prison system. It is important that Lynn Owens is able to get to the bottom of her work. I suspect there'll be more checks.
Pause it there. It's the first mention of someone called Lynn Owens. She was a police officer. She's now looking at the whole accidental release issue. It's still not answering the question, though. So he comes back again, third time.
Because he didn't answer it twice. He's here to answer questions. Can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? It's a clear question. Can he give an answer?
So Lammy's getting angry now.
I'm the Justice Secretary. That's why I'm at the dispatch box, also as Deputy Prime Minister. Of course, we know that there have been spikes since 2021 under his watch. When did he come to this House and apologise?
So again, he's blaming the Conservatives here and not addressing this issue of have there been other cases.
Can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender...
He asks for a fourth, what is it, a fifth time now?
Can he answer the question?
I spent 14 years in opposition and I did a hell of a lot better than he's just done.
So I'm putting to him a very clear question about his responsibilities.
Well, this is number 5.
I repeat. Can he reassure the House that since Kebatu was released, no other asylum-seeking offender has been accidentally let out of prison? Can he answer the question?
Let's just watch this one now.
Deputy
He's
Prime
furious.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward to being up against the member for Newark next time. In 25 years in this House, I've not witnessed a more shameful spectacle, frankly, than what the party opposite left in our justice.
So we can pause it there. That's essentially the exchange. I lost track. Was it 5? Was it 6 questions? Always the same question. Obviously, Cartlidge must have known something when he asked the questions. And it's an issue of whether Lammy knew what Cartlidge knew. The Ministry of Justice says actually Lammy didn't have accurate information before these exchanges. So that was the defence. He didn't have accurate information, and also it was an asylum seeker who was mentioned, and the case of the Albanian was not an asylum seeker, but my God, that was awful to watch.
I mean, I don't know if Cartlidge knew something. I'm not quite sure why he didn't just say it during that exchange.
Well, but surely the answer is he made the Deputy Prime Minister look silly.
I mean, as I said, he did, and I really don't know who advised Lammy to answer like that. But I think, like we were saying before the break, that people are a bit tired of hearing the causes, and they do want to start hearing the solutions. And frankly, that solution is for the Labour government to be radical at the budget and raise that money to fill in the black holes. And they can do that without raising taxes on working people. They could do that with taxing windfall on big banks, increasing digital service taxes
James's
on big
face. Look at James's face here.
Oh my God. I mean, this is just the politics of a combination of envy and naivety. I mean, if you don't understand how an economy works, that's what the answer that you come up with. It's just a nonsense. Yes, of course we need to get money. Yes, of course we need to fix things. But actually, what we're talking about today is we're talking about politicians who won't answer straight questions. We've got talking about politicians who play the blame game, that they say one thing and then go and blame everybody else. We saw it with Rachel Reeves, we've seen it with David Lammy, and we're now seeing a range of policies that are actually going to make things worse, not better. And that's the problem. So I am involved in a national charity. As a direct result of what Rachel Reeves did last time around, we have to find an extra £750,000. So, these decisions that they're taking, this is why we need to look at what they're doing now, as opposed to this kind of weird, we can pick money off here and we can pick money off there and it'll be fine.
Laura, respond to that. Laura, it's naive, says James.
Well, I disagree with that. It's about making the tax system fair. The Oxfam found there's some millionaires right now who don't earn through salary, they earn through capital gains, that are paying an effective tax rate of 11%. That's the same amount that someone with a salary of £15,000 paid.
But they may have already paid tax on that. So they've paid tax on the money and then they've invested wisely. Why do you use that word fair?
Income. Well, I think it's about making sure the wealthy do pay their fair share.
Fair? What's fair?
Well, it's about the fact that people on lower incomes could be paying a higher effective tax rate than people in the top 1%.
OK, all right, let's go to Jane in London. Different angle. You worked at Chelmsford Prison, which is the one that Kebatu was accidentally released from.
Yeah, hello there. Hello to the panel. That is correct. Yeah, I used to work at HMP Chelmsford, and I do agree with the lady on your panel that there's always been systemic issues with the prison service and Chelmsford especially regarding their self-harm and suicide rates. It's one of the, without talking out of turn too much, it's always been had its difficulties. However, as James has said, there's too many lies up and too many too many kind of brushes under the carpet. What's happened as a result of this release with the gentleman from Chelmsford, they blamed one individual who is a lower level member of staff. Yeah. Every other person that was involved with the signing off and kind of getting and the kind of whole release, which is not just one person to sign off, has been covered up. Bit like what David Lammy has done in Parliament yesterday, blamed again with the Conservatives. But from my opinion, the biggest issue we have at the moment is how quickly that Labour brought in this early release scheme. It was not...
Well, it was the Conservatives, wasn't it, who brought it in? I mean, that was genuinely a thing where they said, OK, you'll have your sentence cut by an extra 20% or whatever.
But the implementation of it has been an absolute havoc. The impact it's had on probation service has been absolutely shocking.
Well, I gather one of the problems in prisons is
turning up.
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry, Jane.
Paperwork.
Yeah, one of the problems is actually prisons are left trying to calculate. You've got a sentence, you've served some time already, you've got a discount for good behaviour, you've got another discount for the early release scheme, and they're sitting with these calculators and they're getting it wrong a lot of the time.
They are, because a lot of the time it is an individual working these things out. They're doing it with their pen and paper system, they're referring them to a computer system. There's lots of human error that is happening, and clearly it's been happening, I think, on average, 17 a month. Yeah,
thank you very much. And obviously now every single one of them is a news story. I mean, the guy Billy, who was done for the fraud, who's jailed and then released on the same day by accident, apparently they thought he had a suspended sentence. That's why they let him out. So,
this is the point, though, that... Go on. More tax is not going to fix these problems of incompetence. And until or unless we have people who genuinely take responsibility, and I don't want to see people just fired automatically.
Let me take another call.
So make it better.
I hear you. William in Renfrewshire, hi.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Well, William, we need your thoughts on this. What's the firm word?
Firm word? Well, let's put it this way. They're blaming Labour for everything. I'm no fan of Labour because they're dropping their socialist principles. But at the same time, the Tories were in 14 years. Boris Johnson decided to build a big railway, which was cost billions and billions, which had eventually flopped. Why did they not build prisons then?
Well, HS2, yeah, but HS2 wasn't even him. It was going back to Cameron or whatever. But okay, right, William, thank you. Go on.
They continued taking the loans for it, which they could have built prisons with. And the trouble with the Tories is they only want instant profits for their pals.
OK, William, thank you. So, yeah, maybe we need to put a lot of money into prisons, except the problem is there's no money. After the break, we're taking more of your calls on whether Labour are to blame for mistaken prison releases. And what do you think of the David Lammy exchanges there? 0207 862 2222 is the number you need. Before the break, we asked for which film did DiCaprio win his only Oscar to date? Was it The Revenant, Blood Diamond, or The Great Gatsby? It was The Revenant. Is that the one where he has a fight with a bear?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I knew when I watched that at home, and I knew my attention span was shot when I fast-forwarded through the fight with the bear.
But
I just thought, OK, I've got this. So it's
Great
enough.
Gatsby was a fantastic movie.
Yeah, probably was. Was he in it? Was he?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. He might have been hiding. Welcome. Laura and James are with us this morning. Later we'll be asking if overtaking should be banned on all village roads. But we'll take some more calls on this awful situation. Let me just show you, by the way, a couple of things here. So first of all, I mentioned this earlier, but we've got it blown up. So thank you to producer DS for this. There is the Telegraph cartoon. What a work of genius. I'm sending you to prison. Neither of us has any idea how long you'll be there. Judge to criminal. Well done, Matt. And the other thing is, producer Tia has put this together. Thank you to her. So it's just a reminder that we have, if we're going to now do a programme every day on accidental releases, not even asylum seekers, but all of them, we're going to be doing this all year long. So March 2024, 115. Labour come in year to March 2025, 262. So the Conservatives can say it's worse now, but it was happening under them as well. But those are just regular releases. That's just in the run of... It's basically almost one a day, isn't it? You know, it's one a day, and they said, you can go, oh, hang on a minute, we've got the wrong surname. Paul in Cardiff, have you ever been released from prison by accident?
No.
That's what I just thought I should ask. I just thought there's going to be so many of us who've had this happen to us. What do you want to say?
I think it was disgraceful yesterday for British politics. No side was giving in. Lammy, who is the Justice Secretary, apparently was supposed to have had information that another one had been let loose. And the Conservative guy, apparently, he had paperwork to say that he knew. Well,
he knew.
Why that wasn't sorted out.
Yeah, but that's yeah. Thank you, Paul. Denise in Berkshire. What do you think of those exchanges in the House of Commons?
Oh, well, I think it was a disgrace, but obviously they'd lost control of the whole thing. But I think, you know, if the government, which when they came into government must have known the situation, they have spent so many times saying they didn't understand this and they didn't understand this and they didn't understand what the state of the country was in. Of course they did. But if they spent more time trying to sort out the problems that the last government left, instead of spending their time trying to come up with excuses and reasons why they haven't been able to do anything and why they haven't done it, then maybe something would get done. But are we going to have another 2 years of excuses? At what point are they going to stop blaming the previous government and start blaming themselves for lack of doing anything?
Thank you, Denise. Naomi in London, what do you think?
Well, I think it's been 14 years the previous government haven't managed to solve the problem, then you can't expect Labour to do it in 14 months.
Well, that's what Laura said. That's what Laura said.
Right, it's been reported today that 22 prisoners are mistakenly released every month.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
Right, now, Wandsworth Prison took 6 days to notify the police that they'd mistakenly set these 2 prisoners free. So if it's taken 6 days for Wandsworth to notify the police, then how do we expect the government to have been notified?
I'm wondering, Laura, I'm just on that note, this is the sort of thing that can bring a government down. If we suddenly discover there's been another 3 today, let's say, and do you think, I've heard people say that maybe prison workers are trying to sabotage the government here by deliberately letting people out.
I'm not sure about that, but it's definitely true that it's a story like this, which seems like it will be ongoing, because like we said, the prison crisis is not something that can be resolved overnight. It will definitely become a thorn in Labour's side if they aren't seen to be acting quickly on it. And I do agree that they do need to stop talking about the causes, because we know what the causes were. It was austerity and privatisation.
No, but that's sorry. But that's your opinion. And yes, they are factors. But if you are going to ignore the change in population, if you are going to ignore incompetence, if you are going to ignore processes and data management, then I'm afraid you're not going to get to the right answer.
Well, I'm not going to ignore how austerity caused more crime. The fact that things like youth centres, early intervention, that was all cut. And the number of police on our street was cut as well.
So where are you going to get the money from?
Well, that's
like
a separate,
I said,
that's a separate
radical
thing. They said you tax people with yachts, because they've got very big ones.
Yes, and then they all live abroad, and you say you get a bigger percentage of nothing.
Like I said, the HMRC found that's not true.
OK, thank you for all your calls on this. Later we'll be asking if drivers should be banned from overtaking in villages. After the break, should the NHS refuse to treat racist patients? The Health Secretary has warned that staff are facing 1970s-style abuse, but does refusing care go against the principles of the health service? 020 7862 2222 is the number you need.